Cinemas and COVID Part 2. Welcome to today's video where I go into details about Caribbean Cinemas 10 in Southpark. So the format of this video is going to be a little bit different compared to part 1. Instead of going in order of the guidelines, I'm going to go through in order of walking through the cinema from ticket purchase right through to exit and see how many of the protocols we adhered to. But before you go any further, if this is the first video in this series that you're looking at, just stop right now and go back and check out part 1. The link is in the description box below. I talk about the protocols in detail. I went on the Ministry of Health's website. I got the guidance document for our COVID-19 reopening of theaters and cinemas. Went through it in detail with Caribbean Cinemas 8. And those are the guidelines I'm going to be referencing for Caribbean Cinemas 10. So I'm at the box office. I see floor markers. I see the glass barrier at the ticket booth. I see signage, but I don't see hand sanitizer. I was asked to select my seat when purchasing tickets. Have to open my own door. Luckily there is hand sanitizer, not automatic, manual. No thermometer?
No.
Okay.
Yes, you heard right. There was no temperature check done.
10. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So next, I go to the concession stand while trying to dry this hand sanitizer off of my hands. I didn't order anything fancy this time, just a medium popcorn and drink combo.
The first one, you're right.
Yeah.
Now this one, next one.
So just observing the counter area, there were many barriers at the point of sale cashier stations for the concession stand, but because the remainder of the counter was so wide, there was a lack of coverage for these plexiglass barriers at those points. So I think most of the concession stand was exposed. So I didn't really need condiments, but at the same time there wasn't any hand sanitizer in this general vicinity. So again, just a little more view of the plexiglass at the concession stand. So there's no usher in this area, and I forgot what they told me at the entrance. I was completely lost as to where my cinema was until someone saw me running around like a headless chicken and guided me into the correct theater, shouted at me.
Alright.
And there was no hand sanitizer before I entered the theater. There were no ushers to guide me to my seat, but I'm seeing these fluorescent pieces of Bristol board on the staircase, like this one, and that is my only guide to find row G to get to my seat.
Are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Please, God, I need a rescue.
This is the one.
Thank you, God.
So right before the movie starts, they play their pre-show announcements, which is their COVID safety briefing. So the movie is done and I'm pretty much allowed to exit the theater as I entered through the same door. So, washrooms. Pretty standard signage. And hand sanitizer at the entrance, which is within adherence to the guidelines. So there isn't any one-way flow of traffic with patrons, as I'm pretty much allowed to exit through the entrance doors of the theater. I mean, bearing in mind the attendance at the cinemas is really low, so I guess it's not that bad, but again, let's try to form good habits.
So that was my experience. If I were to make some suggestions for improvements, definitely one of them will be hand sanitizer stations. There weren't enough at strategic points. I will applaud them for having one at the entrance to the washrooms, but key areas like ticket booth, I paid with cash, I think, for Caribbean Cinemas 10. I would want to know that I could sanitize my hand after interacting with cash. Suppose I had to receive change from the concessionaire. That's a point of contact. Thankfully, there was at the entrance, so after I made contact with the entrance door, I was able to sanitize my hands. But there was another touch point when the ticket is ripped. I'm handed back the ticket. I make my way to the concession stand. I probably use a point-of-sale machine or interact with cash again. I haven't sanitized. I didn't sanitize probably until using the washroom. So definitely thinking about the flow of traffic, the various physical touch points a customer has to engage with the facility definitely needs a little more thought by management, and I think the guidelines had it spot on for re-emphasizing the specific areas to put these hand sanitizer stations, and definitely cashiers, concession booth, condiment station where you get your napkins and your straws, entrance to the theater itself. I want to know that I could sanitize my hands as I open a theater door, after I hold a handrail, something to that effect, and when I'm exiting the theater itself. But in the same breath, there's a personal responsibility that comes with it. In actuality, do I depend on looking around every corner to see if there's a hand sanitizer station to provide something for me? I mean, it's customary and it's the norm even when you use a public restroom that you sometimes could walk with your own tissue paper, your own toilet paper to use. That should become so normal now, walking with your own hand sanitizer. So if you felt you've touched something inadvertently, you don't look to your venue to provide those things for you. You should have it on hand one time to sanitize your hands. But the next point is thermal scanning. A thermometer. It's explicitly stated in the guidelines. Not only does it mention that you need to take a temperature reading before allowing permission entry, there are the temperature requirements above and below a certain range of temperature. I think it's 37.5. You could convert that to Fahrenheit as needs be. How do they know? That is so critical. And I would even go as far as saying, at what point should you put a thermal scanner in? Should it be before you even purchase a ticket? Should it be after you purchase the ticket at the entry? You know, those are things, but I mean, it wasn't even there for me to say, oh, well, they probably placed it in a bad spot. Who knows if the other patrons, I mean, granted, I was only in the cinema again this time with a couple, so it was 3 of us at Caribbean Cinemas that day. Come on, it's a really small investment, and it's just one extra measure of control to protect us all. So at this point, I just want to stick a pin in COVID-19 for a while, just cart it over to the side And I want to talk about two things in my experience that were, yes, safety related, but outside of the realm of COVID-19. So the theater I visited was, I think it was Theater 10. And there was glare. There was like a spot of glare on the screen. Now, that's not so much a health effect for me or probably any other patron or probably even a member of staff, because I don't work there. I don't have to stare at that cinema screen for 8 hours every single day. But it's more of a discomfort to me in my viewing experience, and it was more of an annoyance to just have to see this big grease spot looking glare in the middle of the cinema screen. This is supposed to be a newer cinema. Caribbean cinemas, I don't know if you could address that issue. I don't know if it was a one-time thing, if it was just there for that particular time that I visited. Maybe it's not there anymore. Maybe it wasn't there before. I don't know, but just check it out, please. And number two, outside of the realm of COVID-19, before the movie began, there was like a mini power outage. If it lasted for a minute, it was long. Probably it was routine. These things happen all the time. It did not affect my anything else that I would have mentioned before. It would have been the same had there been or not been this little power outage. So again, this brings me to the end of part 2. Yes, short and sweet. Remember, check out part 1. I don't know why you reached this point and you didn't look at part 1. I found the guidelines, I went through it in detail, I showed you, so I wasn't pulling things out of a hat and you know, being over obsessive about hand sanitizer stations. They're there in the guidance for a reason. Go check out part 1 now. But yeah, stick around because part 3 is coming out and I'm going to Movie Town in C3. No, not Port of Spain, that'll be part 4. Movie Town in C3 is part 3. So that's it for this video. But wait, don't go yet. There's a new post on my blog website, thehonestguest.com. It's entitled, "The Gas Pump is Leaking. What Should I Do?" It talks about an accident that happened earlier this year at a gas station in Mandeville, Jamaica. And it just points us in the direction of what we should look out for if there is an incident similar to that at a self-service gas station here in Trinidad. Thank you so much for sticking with me to this point in the video. Again, let me remind you again, part 3 is coming out. If you missed it, go back to part 1, look at Caribbean Cinemas 8. And until next time, bye.